Hey, Grace, Middletown, Pastor Jeff here, and I am coming from the outside again. This time a little bit warmer than it was last week. Hopefully, there won't be any snot in my nose, and my hand won't be shaking. I actually put the phone down to try to prevent the shaking. If you took the time to watch last week, thank you so much. I showed my wife, and yeah, I got some good feedback. Sorry, the neighbor's dog's a little loud. Um, but just trying to settle into some kind of rhythm routine here with you guys, speak in different ways for different reasons, things like that. But I really enjoyed just kind of getting to share my heart a little bit last week, and I wanted to do that again today. Because if you're watching this, then things like, the president's kind of moved that timeline back another month, and which doesn't affect Grace because we weren't planning until May anyways, to be back again in person. But still kind of saddening to kind of hear that move back again. I hope you guys are well, though. I've gotten to speak to a lot of you, but I hope you're well, and I hope you've been spending some time in the Word, especially after some of the things we said last weekend, or last week, I'm sorry, and you are enjoying the weekend. Um, it seems like just start these things the same way over and over again, how, things are just constantly changing so much. But, one thing, that hasn't changed is just the truth of the scriptures. And I kind of jumped into James last week. I wanted to do that again, and I just kind of shared a little bit of my heart with you guys again today. One of the interesting things that I'm hearing and really been thinking about a lot lately is that of, spouses spending a lot more time together maybe than what they're used to, maybe because one's kind of furloughed or working from home, or both are working from home now. Parents spending more time with their kids than what they're used to. And one of the things that has been kind of surprising, I heard this last week, but it just kind of makes sense, is that conflict, domestic conflict and abuse is actually higher than it typically is, like way higher. And I think that's probably for multiple reasons: being around each other more, probably the amount of stress and anxiety in the air, not really knowing what to do with that, how to handle that. Maybe that's you. Maybe you and your spouse have kind of been at each other's, I don't know, what's the phrase, at each other's throats. That sounds kind of weird lately. Maybe as a parent, you've been finding yourself raising your voice more than you're used to. I know bedtime's been a little extra stressful for us around here. Maybe you're a first responder, and you've just been around the same coworkers shift after shift after shift, and so kind of emotions are running high. I can't even imagine what you guys must be going through and dealing with. If that's you, thank you for your service and what you're doing, but I can't even imagine what you're dealing with. But one of the reasons why I love the book of James is that it's because of the circumstances. And James, despite the circumstances, which I feel like are so similar to what we're sharing or what we're going through right now, right? I mean, severe economic crisis. They were hiding and confined, to tight spaces. Think of families and spouses and things going through much of what we're going through. They were fearing and they were facing poverty. Again, probably some of us are experiencing the very same thing. And in the midst of all that, James calls out these Jewish Christians. He calls out their integrity of all things during these times. He doesn't give them a pass. He doesn't say the gospel gives us a pass during these times, but he calls out their integrity. He kind of if we were to finish up chapter 1, then you were to see that section of wisdom kind of shifts into temptations and trials, and from there he really flows into the tongue, how we use our words. Let me just kind of read a few of these verses. But he says, "My dear brothers and sisters, be quick to listen." How difficult is that? Quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Your anger can never make things right in God's sight. How true is that, right? And so get rid of all the filth and evil in your lives and humbly accept the message God has planted in your hearts, for it's strong enough to save your souls. And, he speaks to how we use our tongue. Here, also, chapter 3, much of chapter 3 is devoted just to how we use our tongue, right? How we use our words. And really, not only that, but he also really calls out what we do with our lives as a result of what we listen to and what we choose to ignore. He goes on and says, remember, this is a message to obey, not just to listen to. I think that's where I get the word integrity from. It's not the gospel. It's not just something that we listen to, but the integrity piece is what we do with it. Do we just listen to it? Do we hear it? And then kind of going on, we'll just keep going because this speaks directly to it. If you don't obey, you're only fooling yourself. Or if you just listen and don't obey, it's like looking at your face in a mirror, but doing nothing to improve your appearance. You see yourself, walk away, and forget what you look like. But if you keep looking steadily into God's perfect law, the law that sets you free, and if you do what it says and don't forget what you heard, then God will bless you for doing it. Here's the last few verses of chapter 1. If you claim to be religious, but don't control your tongue, you are just fooling yourself. And your religion, listen to this word that he uses, is worthless. Pure and lasting religion in the sight of God our Father means that we must care for orphans and widows in their troubles and refuse to let the world corrupt us. I remember receiving a voicemail one time, I think it was like a Monday morning or whatever. I, came in, checked my voicemail in my church office, not at Grace, but I remember checking my voicemail. And this was literally the voicemail from someone who I knew. Pastor Jeff, go die. That was the voicemail. You can die. Those were the words that I heard that day. And this passage, these verses immediately came to my mind. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. We can be quick to speak and we can decide to defend ourselves, or we can listen closely and we can choose to love. What should we be quick to listen to? I feel like chapter 1 verse 19, I feel like 19 is actually referring back to the previous verse, where he says, in his goodness he chose to make us his own children by giving us his true word. And I think one of the things we should be quick to listen to right now, more than any other voice, more than any news channel, more than any updates on social media, but we should be quick to listen to the gospel more than anything or anyone else. Because I think as we're quick to listen to the gospel and as we're quick to listen to the voices of truth around us, I think that's what we should be quick to listen to. And I think that does help us to be a little bit slower to speak and much slower to get angry. So kind of here's my challenge, maybe a little twofold. One, during this time of social distancing and quarantining, right, at home, being around people maybe you're not used to being around so much. Maybe it's just by yourself. You're not used to being around yourself so much. What I mean when I say that, like you're just not used to being alone so much with your thoughts and everything, and you've just kind of been processing. And again, maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's your kids, maybe it's a coworker. But let's be quick to listen to the gospel, God's truth. And so the second part, though, I said there was kind of a twofold challenge there. Let's lead with our integrity, because he says pure and lasting religion in the sight of God our Father means that we must care for orphans and widows in their troubles and refuse to let the world corrupt us. Let's refuse, regardless of what's going on, let's refuse to give in to the worry and the stress and everything going on around us. And let's be a people that love the helpless and the hurting and the forgotten right now. this week, every single one of us, let's do something to love around us. Let's be known for our love right now, Grace Middletown. That's what I've got today. That's about 10 minutes. I want to be quiet now. Hey, you can feel free to comment back to me. Comment in the this YouTube link below in the comments threads. And some of you guys asked last week, can I share this? Yes, please feel free to share with your team, with your friends, whatever you want to do. But this is primarily for you. So praying for you guys, whatever you got going on. And if you need anything at all, and I said this last week, but I mean it. If you need anything at all, just someone to listen to, you're lonely, you need to vent, you're angry, hey, feel free to reach out. I'd love to spend some time with you. So praying for you guys this week, and let's love the helpless and the hurting this week. All right. Thanks, guys.